First story. I neglected my daughter and didn't attend her school concert because I have a new husband and kids. She fumbled on stage, made a fool out of herself, didn't pick up my newborn, and didn't babysit him like I ordered. Then blamed me for everything, so I grounded her, let my husband punish her, and demanded she break up with her boyfriend. Now I'm regretting my actions so much. I 32F had my daughter, Layla 16, when I was just 16 myself. Her dad passed away in a car crash when she was 2, and I raised her alone for a while until I met my now husband, Brian 35. Together, we've built a full family with our 5 sons Jaden and Caleb 12, Logan 10, Micah 8, and our newborn Luca 3 weeks. I love my kids. All of them. But our family dynamic has shifted, and if I'm being honest, Layla has struggled with it more than the rest of us. She's never been openly rebellious, but the tension has been there for a while, unspoken, simmering. I get that she had me all to herself for a long time, but we're not in that chapter anymore. Things change. Families evolve. Layla is musical and gifted when it comes to performing. She's done dozens of concerts and recitals over the years. I used to go to every one back when it was just her. But this past year has been hard on me physically and mentally with Luca's pregnancy and juggling 4 other boys already in school. She doesn't seem to get that I'm not the same 20-year-old single mom with all the time in the world. Last week, there was a night when all the kids had events. Logan and Micah had a singing showcase at their elementary school from 4 to 6 p.m. Jaden and Caleb had a big music night at their middle school from 7 to 10 p.m., a sort of end-of-year celebration with games and food after. Layla also had her high school choir concert that same evening, also from 7 to 10 p.m. She had a solo, apparently a pretty big one. I knew I could make it to Logan and Micah's concert. No issue. But after that, Brian and I discussed it, and we both agreed that we wanted to be at the twins' event afterwards, not Layla's. We don't get a lot of chances to just hang out with the boys and let them have fun, and the food and games afterwards sounded like something they'd enjoy. Also, we have been to so many of Layla's events before. She's had solos in the past. We told Layla ahead of time that we wouldn't be going to hers. She was upset. She told me it wasn't fair that she had to go to her own concert alone while we spent time with the boys. She said, "I'm literally your firstborn. How did you forget about me?" I told her, truthfully, that it's not just about her anymore. She has 5 brothers now, and Brian and I have to prioritize as parents. We also told her that after her concert, she needed to get an Uber and come to the twins' school to pick up baby Luca. We were planning to stay until the event wrapped up, and we didn't want to bring the baby through all that noise and chaos, especially after I'd been out all day. She didn't say much in response. Just nodded, grabbed her music folder, and left. What I didn't know was how badly things would go. Apparently, Layla's solo was first. According to another mom who was there, she walked on stage looking kind of off. She started singing, and about 30 seconds in, her voice cracked. Then it happened again. Then she just stopped. I was told she looked humiliated, like she was holding back tears. She finished the rest of the song, but was clearly shaken. She didn't smile or make eye contact with anyone. The rest of the choir moved around her, but she was just frozen. Everyone noticed. I didn't find out about it until later, but Layla told me she lost focus because she was upset that we weren't in the crowd. She told me it threw her off, and that she thought maybe I would still show up. She thought I'd walk in during her song, or at least be there after. She cried in the bathroom during intermission, apparently. What pissed me off, though, was what happened after. Layla didn't come to get Luca like we told her to. Instead, she showed up at the twins' school event with her boyfriend Miles and his mom, dad, and little brother who was already at the school with his own class. I wasn't expecting any of them, so it threw me off. Miles' mom walked straight up to me and said, "Hi, I'm Natalie, Miles' mother. Why weren't you at Layla's concert tonight?" I started explaining everything, that we had 5 kids with overlapping events, and that we've supported Layla many times before. So this time we needed to be there for the boys. Natalie said, "Are you drunk? Or do you have some kind of disorder? Because what you did was beyond cruel to that girl. Layla is an incredible vocalist. That solo meant something to her." My son said she broke down afterwards. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't herself. He had to walk her out of the building. I managed to go to both of my son's events tonight. Maybe you should try. I tried to tell her she didn't understand our family dynamics, but she cut me off again. "You're like a light bulb that doesn't shine. I'll drive Layla home." Then she took my daughter and walked off with her. I was stunned, embarrassed, furious. Brian tried to say something, but I could tell he was just as pissed. We stayed with the boys while they played, but I couldn't stop thinking about Layla showing up with that woman like she was trying to prove some kind of point. And she didn't even take Luca like we asked. She completely ignored what we told her to do. She left us with the baby while she had someone else drive her home and play rescue. When she got back to the house later that night, she walked straight past me and Brian when she came through the door. Didn't say hi. Just went towards her room with her makeup smudged. I followed her because I was already angry about the whole scene with Natalie. The judgment. The attitude. The implication that I failed as a mother. I wasn't letting Layla walk in like nothing happened. I said, "We need to talk, now." She turned around, and her face was blotchy. She looked tired and beaten down, but also irritated, like she was bracing for impact. She said, "What? What else do you want from me?" And that tone set me off. I told her, "You didn't do what we told you. You were supposed to come get Luca. Instead, you brought strangers into our business and made me look like an idiot in front of them. Do you think that's okay? Do you think you can just—" She cut me off. "I didn't bring strangers. Miles saw me crying on stage. He followed me out. His mom offered to drive me because you weren't there. And you told me to Uber after performing for 3 hours. You didn't think I'd already be exhausted." I told her exhaustion wasn't an excuse for disobeying. She knew the plan. We needed her help. She's 16, not a baby. She can handle one Uber ride and holding her brother until we wrap up with the boys. But she wasn't having it. She said, "I humiliated myself tonight. I messed up my solo. I cracked. I couldn't breathe. I kept looking for you. I thought maybe you'd still come because you always came to the boys' stuff. I thought you'd walk in the door at the last second. And then I saw an empty seat. And I realized you weren't coming at all. And I had to sing anyway. And I ruined it. And I walked out of that auditorium alone." She was crying again at this point. I told her, "Layla, you're being dramatic. It's one concert. You had dozens. The boys only get a few of these sorts of events. And we told you in advance we weren't coming. You can't blame us for your mistake on stage." That's when she completely shut down. Not yelling, just flat, like a switch flipped. She said, "I didn't blame you for the mistake. I said I felt alone. But of course you twist it. You always twist it." I asked her what she meant by that, because I wasn't going to let her throw accusations without backing them up. And she listed things I honestly hadn't thought mattered. How last year on her birthday, I left the dinner early because Micah threw a fit over the wrong fries. How she asked to join dance classes, but we didn't have the budget. But then a month later enrolled the twins in club soccer. How every picture wall in the hallway was filled with photos of the boys, but only 2 of her both from years ago. How, when she got sick in January, Brian told her to stop exaggerating until she ended up in the ER with pneumonia. How she tried to tell us she was struggling in school emotionally, and I said, "Everyone struggles sometimes, you're fine." How Luca's arrival meant she became the go-to person for getting bottles, grabbing diapers, watching the boys, for a minute, cleaning up, or keeping them quiet so I could rest. She threw all of that at me in one long breath, and I genuinely didn't know she'd been tallying things like this. I told her she was being overly sensitive and acting like the victim. I reminded her I was 16 when I had her, and I did everything for her. She said, "You did everything because you had no choice. But now you do have choices, and I'm always last." Brian stepped into the hallway at that point. He heard more than I wanted him to. He said, "Enough. Go to your room." Layla just nodded, wiped her face, and walked away without another word. I thought it ended there. It didn't. The next morning, I checked my phone and saw a message request from Natalie. "Miles' mom." I don't know how she found me. Maybe through Layla or social media. But the message was blunt. "What you did to that girl last night was cruel. She froze on stage and cried because you weren't there. The whole room noticed. She deserved support. She deserved better. Please don't make her feel responsible for your choices. I hope you realize what you're doing before she stops trying." I didn't respond. I showed the message to Brian, thinking he'd be angry. But instead he just sighed and said, "People need to learn to mind their own business." But the part that stuck with me and irritated me was that Layla must have talked to them. She must have told them details. She must have painted me out as some monster. And now I'm dealing with outsider opinions about my parenting. Later that day, Layla stayed in her room, except to get food. She barely spoke. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at Brian. When I told her she still needed to take Luca for a bit, so I could shower. She said, I don't want to hold him right now. That annoyed me again. I told her she doesn't get to pout and refuse responsibility. We're a family. Everyone helps. She said, I'm not the third parent, Mum, and walked away. I won't lie, that stung. But it also pissed me off. She was disrespectful, ungrateful, and acting like she's the only one in the world with feelings. I tried talking to Brian again, hoping he'd back me up fully. But even he said, she just needs time. It was an important night to her. Which made me feel like somehow I was the only one seeing the bigger picture. We have 6 kids. We can't split in 3 directions at once. Someone was going to feel slighted no matter what. But now I'm getting side-eyed by my husband, disrespected by my daughter, judged by another parent, and told I'm cold or cruel. All because we prioritized the boys' event and asked Layla to help with the baby afterwards. To me, she escalated the situation by bringing her boyfriend's parents, people we barely know, into our family issues. She humiliated herself on stage, and now wants to put that weight on me like I was supposed to magically fix it. And now she's acting like the victim in a problem she created. I don't think I did anything wrong by choosing the boys' concert. I don't think I did anything wrong by expecting her to follow through with helping with Luca. I don't think I deserve lectures from strangers about my own kid. But clearly everyone around me thinks I'm some monster. So I'm genuinely asking. Ada. Comments. Comment 1. Jesus Christ. Why Tia to the effing moon and back? Your daughter fell apart on stage in front of a whole crowd and had to be walked out by her boyfriend. And you're more upset that she embarrassed you by showing up with his mum than the fact that you made her feel like an afterthought. We've supported Layla many times before. She's your daughter, not a charity you give to when convenient. You don't get a punch card where 10 events buy you a free pass to miss the 11th. She's 16, still a kid. And this wasn't just a concert. This was clearly a big deal. A solo, public performance. Instead of being there, you chose corn dogs and inflatable bounce houses with the Golden Twins. And then you expected her to take care of your newborn after emotionally crashing in public. What kind of mother makes her child Uber to babysit her infant sibling after blowing off her big night? And then you gaslight her when she says she felt alone. No wonder the boyfriend's mum stepped in. Someone had to act like a effing parent. Comment 2. There's a lot going on here, and none of it looks good for you. First off, you spend most of this post defending your choices, but not once do you ask yourself why Layla felt so hurt. You say she's dramatic and playing the victim, but all she did was express pain that you won't acknowledge. You even call her crying attitude. You minimize everything she says. Also, let's talk about your husband, Brian. The way you quote him, go to your room. She needs time. He doesn't sound like a stepfather who loves her. He sounds like someone who tolerates her. And you? You sound like someone who's relieved to have a new family and keeps Layla on the periphery because she doesn't fit into the perfect image. Layla's not your third parent. She's your oldest child. Stop treating her like she's a live-in helper who owes you because you had her young. That's not her burden to carry. YTA. You didn't just miss a concert. You left your daughter on a stage, crumbling, while you handed out snacks to the kids you actually prioritize. Comment 3. YTA. But you won't realize it until 10 years from now, when Layla's name isn't even in your contacts. You are laying bricks in a wall she will one day finish building to shut you out for good. That moment where she said, "You always twist it," that wasn't about one night. That was about years of being pushed aside for the real family. She knows she doesn't belong in your inner circle, and you confirmed it when you told her, flat out, it's not all about you anymore. Translation. You had your turn. Step aside. We've replaced you. And the wildest part? You're mad she lent on someone else. That another woman stepped up where you didn't. Instead of reflecting, you made it about how it made you look. You were embarrassed, not remorseful. Layla's already detaching. You just haven't noticed yet. But one day you'll look around and realize the girl who needed you most stopped trying to reach you. And it won't be her fault. It'll be yours. Keep choosing the other kids over her, and you'll end up with 5 sons and 1 stranger. Update. After my post, things spiraled faster than I expected. Layla didn't snap back to normal like I thought she would. She was walking around like a ghost, barely talking, locked in her room most of the time, and avoiding eye contact with me and Brian. Whenever she was around the boys, she was polite but distant. With Luca, she kept her hands to herself. I asked her twice to hold him while I cleaned bottles. Both times she said, "I'm not doing this anymore." So we grounded her. Took her phone, her laptop, and limited her TV time. I told her I wasn't going to have a child sulking around the house, acting like a victim after we made a responsible parenting decision. She accused me again of abandoning her on stage and turning her into a babysitter. I told her I was done with the manipulation and that she needed to stop acting like we left her in the woods. She didn't say anything back, just stood there and said, "Okay." Not defiant, not scared, just nothing. A few days later, I was putting away laundry in the hallway when I overheard her on the house phone the landline we barely use, quietly talking to someone and laughing. I listened in. It was Natalie. I heard her say, "It's okay, we'll see you at the park Saturday." Turns out, she's been meeting with Miles' family behind our backs. No phone, no car, but still finding ways to communicate. Walking to a park near the library, where Natalie brings coffee and they talk. Like she's the daughter she always wanted, like I don't even exist. I confronted her. I told her she wasn't allowed to sneak around and lie about our family like we were abusers. She said, "I didn't lie. I just said you're not my mom anymore. That's how I feel." I told her she was grounded again. No outside trips, no contact with them, period. She looked at me and said, "You can ground me all you want, but I'm not part of this family. I don't care what you say." That night, I lost it. I went straight to Miles' house. He answered the door, looking nervous, like he expected me. I told him to get his parents. When Natalie came to the door, I told her this was done. "You need to step down from playing mommy to my daughter. You are not her parent. Stay out of our business." Natalie looked at me and said, "Then be a parent." I asked her if she was the one helping Layla sneak out. She said no. She doesn't sneak. She walks. Because no one talks to her at home. She's just surviving. You're not the victim here. I told her to never contact Layla again. She said, "Tell Layla that. She's not a prisoner." I came home furious. Brian told me I was escalating it by going over there, and we needed to shut this down, not feed the fire. I agreed. The next day, we told Layla she was banned from seeing Miles or his family. If she wanted to live under our roof, she would obey our rules. 2 days later, CPS knocked on our door. Apparently, Natalie filed a report. She told them we were forcing Layla to be a carer, emotionally neglecting her, refusing her basic social connections, and retaliating when she expressed distress. I was livid. They interviewed me, then Brian. Then they asked to speak to Layla alone. I had to leave the room. Afterwards, they didn't say much. Just that they'd be following up. Brian blamed Layla. I blamed Natalie. That night, Brian snapped. Layla was sitting at the table eating. Brian said, "So now you've got CPS in our home. You still hate us that much?" She said nothing. He said, "Why are you still living here if you hate us so much?" She didn't even flinch. She just picked up her plate, dumped it in the sink, and went to her room. We didn't see her again until the next morning. I tried talking to her after that. Told her we could move past this if she cut things off with Miles and his parents. She said, "You don't get to choose who I feel safe with. You stopped being that person a long time ago." I told her if she didn't end it with him, we'd cut off every privilege, rides, allowances, anything that made her life easier. She said, "I've been surviving without any of that anyway. You think I care now?" Since then, she's not been the same. She doesn't speak unless spoken to. She doesn't ask for rides. She walks to the store alone. She gets up early, eats, leaves, comes back before curfew, and repeats. Brian thinks we should send her to stay with extended family until she learns respect. I'm considering it. But part of me worries that if she leaves, she'll never come back. And part of me is starting to wonder if she already left, just not physically. I wanted to believe she'd grow out of this, that it was teenage drama. But the more she pulls away, the more it feels like she's building a life that doesn't include us at all. And I don't know if I'm mad at her or scared she's right to. Comments. Comment 1. Why are you still living here if you hate us? That line is going to live in your daughter's bones for the rest of her life. Congrats, Mom of the Year. You don't love Layla, you love the idea of her being obedient, useful, and out of your way. The second she tried to set boundaries, you lost your damn mind. You grounded her, stalked her, eavesdropped on her, and then confronted a 16-year-old's boyfriend like this is some mafia family drama. Your daughter didn't escalate, you did. She cried on a stage. You responded by cutting her off from everyone who saw her pain. You think the problem is Natalie overstepping? No, the problem is you've abandoned your daughter emotionally, and she found someone who gave it SHT. And you hate it because it reminds you that you failed. She's not going to forgive this. Keep pushing. And she won't be your problem in a year. She'll be gone. Comment 2. You and Brian aren't parenting Layla. You're managing her like a threat. Let's break it down. You skipped her concert, blamed her for being upset, then punished her when she refused to act like your built-in nanny. Now you're shocked that she's emotionally detached and seeking comfort from literally anyone else. And Brian. That man doesn't give a single SHT about Layla. Why are you still living here if you hate us? That line came from a place of pure resentment. Not love. Not concern. That's a man who never saw her as family, just baggage. She's not disrespecting you. She's surviving you. She found safety in another household, and you're trying to rip it away, not because it's dangerous, but because you're jealous she feels safer there. You don't need to send her to extended family. She's already gone emotionally. All you'll do is finish the job and make it permanent. Comment 3. I read your original post, and now this update. And yeah, this is generational dysfunction at full throttle. You had her young. You clearly resent that. You built a second chance life and decided she'd either blend in or be left out. Your energy screams, I did everything for her, and she still complains. But Layla didn't ask to be your first draft. She didn't ask to raise your baby or sacrifice her big moment, so your new family could have hot dogs at a school fair. Brian never wanted a daughter. That much is obvious. You let that fester, and now your kid is emotionally homeless in her own house. And now CPS got called. Not because of one event, but because someone saw a pattern. And instead of taking a breath and reassessing, you demanded she dump the one person helping her feel safe. You still have time to fix this, but only if you drop the ego and start listening. But judging by this post, that's not happening. Update. I didn't plan to post again, but more happened in the last 2 weeks than I can even process. It's been a mess, some of it my fault, some of it not, but all of it falling apart faster than I thought it would. It started with a call from Layla's school. Her guidance counselor said Layla had a verbal conflict with her music teacher after class. Apparently, the teacher told her she'd need to re-audition for a part due to emotional inconsistency in her recent performances. Layla lost it. She accused the teacher of punishing her for not being emotionally dead, then walked out before class was over. When I got to the school, the counselor asked if everything was okay at home. I said things were tense but manageable. She gave me a look I've seen before, polite, but doubtful. Layla sat next to me in the office. When I tried to speak to her, she just said, "Don't pretend to care now." In front of the counselor. That same week, I found out Layla's been working a part-time job. A friend of mine from church saw her behind the counter at a bookstore near the high school. She'd been going there after school on certain days. She used a friend's phone to apply. I confronted her, and she said, "I need a backup plan. You made it clear I can't count on this house." I told her she was still part of this family, that she didn't need to go behind our backs. She said, "You didn't even know what days I leave the house. You didn't ask." Things really snapped when I asked her to pick up Micah one afternoon. I had Luca. The twins had an orthodontist appointment, and Brian was working late. She agreed, I thought, but either she forgot or got distracted. I got a call from the school 20 minutes after pickup ended. Micah was still waiting. When I got home, I found Layla asleep in her room. I woke her up yelling. I told her she can't just decide when to check in and when not to. I was loud. Maybe too loud. The boys were in the hallway listening. She kept saying, "I said I was sorry," and I just kept going. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore, not with the kids, not with anything. She stared at me and said, "You just needed one more reason to hate me, right?" and walked out. I assumed she went for a walk. She didn't come back. Hours passed. By 9:30 p.m., I was calling her friends. No one had seen her. Around 11 p.m., Brian found a letter in her drawer. No emotion, just facts. I'm safe. I'm with people who see me as a person, not a job. I've moved in with Miles' parents. I have a place to sleep and people who care. If you try to drag me back, if you try to threaten anyone I'm with, I will tell CPS everything. I will make sure they know everything I've been made to do, and I'll testify to get your kids removed. Leave me alone." Brian went white. He read it again and again, like he didn't believe it was real. He wanted to call the cops. I said we can't. Not after what she threatened. Not after the CPS visit last month. We didn't call anyone. We didn't go to her school. We left it alone. Days later, she won an award. Her school does this yearly recognition thing for student leadership and creativity. They posted pictures on Facebook. Layla was in one, holding a plaque, standing between her principal and, of course, Natalie. I wasn't invited. That night, I told Brian I might have handled things wrong. That maybe I leant too hard into thinking she was older than she is, just because I had her young. That maybe I gave up on being her parent because I thought she didn't need one anymore. And that I yelled when I should have been listening. He wasn't interested in self-reflection. He said Layla's still manipulating the situation, playing the victim, and trying to destroy our family. I said maybe our family already failed her. We haven't told the boys anything besides. Layla's staying with a friend for a while. Micah asked why she didn't say goodbye. I didn't have an answer. I still don't. There's a part of me that's angry not at her, but at myself. I told myself she was mature, that she was capable, that she could handle being put second for a while. And she did. Until she couldn't. I'm not saying I was perfect before. But I know yelling at her over Micah was a mistake. I know grounding her into silence didn't solve anything. I know forcing her to choose between isolation and obedience made her run. But I'm also frustrated. She walked away. She put herself in the care of people who aren't her parents. She's sharing her whole life with a woman who, frankly, enjoys making me feel like garbage. And that still burns. I want her home. I don't even know what that looks like anymore. But I want a chance to get it right this time, if it's not already too late. Comments. Comment 1. OP, I don't know how else to say this. Your daughter didn't run away. She escaped. You talk a lot about being overwhelmed, having a lot on your plate, juggling 6 kids, etc. But here's the part you keep refusing to acknowledge. You keep piling responsibility on Layla's plate, and then get shocked when she cracks under it. You didn't treat her like a daughter. You treated her like a spare adult. A free babysitter. A stand-in parent for the kids you actually chose to have. And Jesus Christ, your husband. He resented her existence, and you let it get worse. Layla wasn't dramatic. She was drowning. Then the CPS letter. That wasn't a threat, that was her last boundary. You pushed and pushed and pushed, and she finally said, "Do not push me again." She's gone because she had to save herself. You need to deal with the fact that she left, not because she's cruel, but because you made home unsafe for her. Comment 2. As a high school teacher, let me break down what's happening from the academic side, because you seem confused about the school's reaction. When a teen has a public breakdown in class, gets into confrontations with staff, and starts withdrawing from peers, that's not teenage attitude. That is a kid whose emotional needs have been ignored for so long that they're hitting a breaking point. Her music teacher didn't remove her part out of punishment. They probably saw her deteriorating and weren't willing to put her through another failure she wasn't emotionally capable of handling. Her guidance counselor's face wasn't judgment. It was a concern. Educators see kids like Layla all the time, bright, capable, and crushed under unseen family dynamics. You grounding her and taking away every means of support didn't teach her consequences. It isolated her further. Then she tried building independence with a job, not drugs, not skipping school, not anything destructive. And your reaction? Anger. The moment she said, "Don't pretend to care now," that was her telling you she's been emotionally parenting herself for years. Her leaving was inevitable. You just finally saw the collapse that had been building. Comment 3. I'm going to be honest with you. This update is the first time I've seen even a flicker of self-awareness from you. You finally admitted you abandoned her emotionally. That's good. But you're still underestimating how deep the wound goes. Kids don't write letters like the one she left unless they feel cornered. And they don't threaten CPS unless they genuinely believe they're safer outside the home than inside it. Here's the part you seem scared to say out loud. Your husband is the biggest problem in that house. Layla didn't just leave you, she left him. His resentment, his tone, his dismissiveness, the way he talks to her like she's an intruder that eats a kid alive. And you let it. You let him speak to her in a way that told her she wasn't family. When he said, "Why are you still living here if you hate us?" he basically packed her bags for her. She left because nobody was protecting her, not even her own mother. If you want a relationship with Layla in the future, you need to understand something. She didn't leave because she's rebellious. She left because she learned the hard way that the people she lived with weren't safe to rely on. Fixing this means choosing her over your husband sometimes. And based on what you wrote, you haven't been willing to do that yet. Second story. My entitled sister cheated with a married man. Now that man's wife physically assaulted me, thinking I was the other woman. We made a video on this story already, but OP made an update. I have no idea where my idiot sister is because she went on vacation with her friends. All I know is that I'm going to pull her hair out when I see her. My sister and I go to the same university. Although we are only 3 years apart, we are almost identical, and people always confuse us for twins. And today I suffered because of that resemblance we have, because as soon as I left my university to go to my car, a lady threw herself on me to start dragging me by the hair, while she was yelling at me a lot of things and insults. By pure instinct, I also began to fight. Honestly, at that moment, I thought that some homeless person had an attack of dementia or something. I pulled her by the hair until my friends separated her from me. The woman was crying, and behind her, there were 2 more women who were with her and arguing with my friends. The woman was yelling at me that I am her husband's SLT, and I didn't understand anything about what was happening. But at that moment my mind clicked, because I know that my sister is dating an older man. She doesn't tell me much about him, but she shows me the gifts he gives her. I told the woman that she was looking for my sister. Basically, the people who were with her yelled at me that I must be just as SLTTY as my sister. I'm not. I think and tried to fight again, but the police approached us, and it was all too messy. Now my scalp is full of scratches, my back is scraped by the asphalt, and my hair hurts too much. And my sister doesn't answer my calls to explain what the hell she did before I tell my mother what happened. I know that if I tell my parents about this, they might even stop paying for my sister's education, because it's not the first time she's done something like this. I'm going to tell them. Yes, but first I need to talk with my sister. The humiliation of having been beaten up at my university for something I didn't do is too big. It gives me chills to think about coming back on Monday, and that the people who saw us believe that I am to blame for that when my sister was the culprit. Poor woman, I do feel empathy for her, but I didn't deserve that beating. My sister is not a good person at all, so it's easy to see her in a situation like this. At least she should have asked my name before that. Edit. Yes, we ended up at the police station, and I filed charges against her, even though she apologized to me a lot once she calmed down a little bit. To be honest, her friends were worse than her in the sense of wanting to keep fighting when it was all over. But anyway, that doesn't justify that the fool hit the wrong person. For now, I'm just going to wait for my sister to come back, because I want to say everything with her present so that she can't run away from our parents. It's not the first time my sister has messed with a married man. Comments. Comment 1. The fact she said you're probably a SLT too. Don't feel sympathy for her. She's turned just as hateful. OP, her friends said that, not her. She was too overwhelmed, to be honest, and her friends didn't help at all because they screamed louder than she did. Comment 2. Brat. I would get that woman's number and call her when your sister gets back and deliver the devil to your sister's doorstep. That's the only way she will learn that her actions have consequences. OP, I told the woman that my sister was going to be back next week. I don't know if she will look for her, but if she does, I hope she won't get confused again. Comment 3. Tell your parents before your sister can change the story to them. OP, even if my sister changed the story, they wouldn't believe her. She has a history of being with married men. Comment 4. Exactly, my point. We don't know what the husband is telling his girlfriends. The wife and her thugs need to visit Mr. Wonderful. OP, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if my sister knows. She likes to be the mistress, and it's something she says out loud, and even my parents know. It's something she enjoys. OP on, if her sister had done this before my sister has a history of sleeping with married men and getting my parents in trouble for it, also for other behaviors she has. She was the mistress of a man close to me and my parents, so she's walking a tightrope because last time a strong situation happened, and my parents are tired of her behavior. She's not a girl. She's a grown woman to keep getting us in trouble without having any consequences. Update. Hi, my sister came back from her vacations a few days ago. I waited for her to come back because I didn't want her to run away from telling our parents what happened, and I wanted her to be the one to tell them everything. My sister lives with our parents. No, she's not a teenager. She's almost 30. I don't know why someone in the comments said that she was suffering from grooming when she's 28. There are even people over 40 years old in college. And anyway, you need to be an adult to be there. So when she arrived, I was already there. When my parents asked me what the hell happened to me, I told them to wait for my sister to come to talk about it. So they already knew that this was about her. Many people don't understand that there are people who like to be the second and enjoy feeling that they can sleep with anyone, even with a forbidden one. And my sister is that type of person. Since she was a teenager, she flirted with her friends' boyfriends. She did it to measure her value with others. but she never flirted with any of my boyfriends. At least she has her limits. Now that she is older, she likes to sleep with married men. For her, it is better to receive gifts and fun without the pressure of being the wife. Her words. We discussed this many times. At the end of the day, it's all a self-esteem and ego problem that my sister has. She needs to know that she can get whatever she wants. Anyway, a few days ago, the cheating man had sent a message to my sister telling her that his wife beat him and kicked him out of the house after she found out about his affair with my sister. The woman found my sister's egg and sent her messages telling her to stay away from her family, because apparently the man took their kids to some of the dates with my sister. And my sister, who is a big idiot, followed the fight with a woman insulting her. She showed me the chat and was clearly encouraging the woman to fight, calling her names, etc. And that's how I ended up getting beaten. According to my sister, she didn't believe that the woman was really going to hit her. But then I started to message her, and she basically ignored me because she didn't want to get that kind of stress, and also because she knew she screwed up. Honestly, so many comments told me that my sister was not to blame for anything that I began to believe it. Until I saw the messages she sent to that woman almost begging for a beating, and I stopped feeling any kind of empathy for her. She's not a good person and never was. I was furious, but my mother was even more angry. It is not the first time that my family has been affected because of her sexual adventures. This time we did not lose money or friends, but I was physically attacked, which is worse. My sister justified herself by saying that she is single and has no responsibility for any marriage. But my mother told her that we all suffer because of her problematic behavior, and that morally she's helping to ruin the lives of many because of her ego. It all ended with my sister throwing a tantrum like always, and even blaming me for looking like her. But this time my father kicked her out of the house with her things. I found it a little sad that my own parents apologized to me for their adult daughter's behavior. At the end of the day, I feel sad to see my parents and other people because of her behavior. And about the woman, she contacted me the next day I got beaten and was really sorry. She said she would pay for any medical expenses, but I'm fine. She sounded much calmer without her friends and told me that she had never done anything like that. But she felt a very strong hatred for my sister and her ex because of how they talked about her with the children. Although she sounded really regretful, a large part of me wanted her to kick my sister's arse. But that's not going to happen. Even if that doesn't make me a good person, I would have liked to see that. I'm sorry for the boring update. But not much happened, except that she didn't send me a message or anything like that. Anyway, I just pray that my parents still don't talk to her, so I can see her as little as possible. Comments. Comment 1. Not a boring update. I'm glad things didn't escalate, and that your parents were in your corner. I hope your sister reflects on her actions and how they impact others. Comment 2. She's 28 years old. It's about damn time she becomes a responsible woman and faces the consequences of her actions. While we're at it, I'm glad your parents kicked her out. She can work and pay rent just like the rest of us. You did nothing wrong. Comment 3. Sheesh. I'm effing 42, and I would never forgive myself if I ever got into a romantic relationship with a married person. That SHT is gross. If anything, your parents holding her accountable is an awesome thing to see here. I am so sorry for what you went through here, OP. Update. Hi. I remembered this account and was about to delete it, but I keep getting messages about my posts. So before I delete this, I'm going to give one last short and boring update about what happened this year. Basically, my sister is pregnant. She has a new boyfriend. Do the math. So she started talking to my parents again. They hadn't spoken to her for a few months until the pregnancy news, and well, she knew very well that our parents wouldn't leave her alone during that time. I hope she changes with time, and that motherhood helps her improve, although I doubt it since she's treating our mother like a free maid. My mother now has to wash her clothes by hand and cook 24/7s for my dear sister, who can't lift a finger. Our parents are older people with their own physical problems, but she doesn't understand that. I don't judge my parents. They're worried about the baby, and my sister is really good at manipulating people, especially our parents. My parents spent months distancing themselves from her, and now she found the best method to make them feel sorry for her. A baby. They know that she is not responsible. Her boyfriend is a normal boy, but he doesn't even have his own place, and right now they live with his parents, which worries my parents. I've heard that that boy's mother has been telling them she wants them to move out. I'm not going to be away from my parents, who I love, but all family gatherings with the two of them are at my house from now on. I definitely prefer to save myself the surprise visits she makes at their house. I think people with a troubled sibling but loving family will understand this dilemma. I've become casual friends with the woman who hit me. I'm sorry, but I'm not woke enough to condemn a woman for hitting her idiot husband and his mistress even though she hit me. I am not sorry to disappoint the comments that wanted to see that woman imprisoned, because if a man does it, he would go to prison. She's really kind and actually spent weeks apologizing to me. She also got her friends to apologize to me. I forgive her. I'm not going to hate her for being human. But I made her pay money for my damaged hair. And I did press charges anyway. Actions have consequences for everyone. I feel like a lot of people in the comments live in a strange fantasy and give their opinions as if they don't know how the real world works. Many also reflected their own traumas, and I received messages calling me a bad sister. Which doesn't bother me because maybe I am. I'm tired of trying to help a narcissist. I've received messages like, "She's a bad person. You should report her and get her imprisoned." Guys, that doesn't happen in the real world for a ghetto fight. There are men who kill their families, and the police do nothing. We're not close friends, but we've met up a few times. She hasn't divorced because of lack of money, but she's not with that man, and they don't live together. She's really kind, and to be honest, now that I know her, I'm going to totally continue justifying her reaction to hitting that man. He recorded stuff for my sister with his kids in the same room. I've heard the dirty audios he sent my sister with the kids' voices in the background. F him, I would have hit him worse. I don't know how much these audios help in the divorce, but I hope they are of good help to her. Exposing minors to this type of content should be punishable by jail, but the world is not fair. That woman's only mistake was hitting me and not my sister, but that's a frustration I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. Her children love her, and I know that she's a good person. Honestly, I would have reacted in a worse way, which does not mean that it is ideal. But losing your mind is sometimes part of being human. I'd like to see my sister get what's coming to her someday, but the world isn't a fair place, and she always comes out on top in the end. What a depressing and messy update. But honestly, I just wanted to vent because yesterday I saw my sister treat my mother badly under the excuse of pregnancy hormones. The only thing that relieves me is knowing that my parents support me in my decision to meet at home or outside from now on. Anyway, I hope someone hits her one day. I remember that many people wondered what problem my sister caused in my family that cost us money. My father used to work as a security guard in a house, and he earned good money until my sister in her 20s had an affair with my father's boss, a young guy who lived with his girlfriend. The girlfriend found out. My father was fired because of her, and at the request of that boy's girlfriend. My father lost his job at a difficult time in our country. He received some money for the lawsuit he made after being fired. But it was still too little compared to what he earned working there. Money that did not last too long, since in times of political crisis, even electricity can be worth a third of a salary. Comments. Comment 1. If your sister's behavior is not enough for your parents to put a bit of distance, then it is incumbent upon you to set your own boundaries around them. I truly hope you're doing well outside of all the drama brought to you. Comment 2. Glad you're doing okay, and I don't blame you for anything that you said. I'm surprised no one has gone off on her with the way she's treating your mom. OP. My parents used to try to set limits on her, but the last time my father told her to grow up, she proceeded to send messages to my mother saying that if she loses the baby, it will be entirely their fault. I don't know what excuse she will look for when the baby is born, but now she makes them feel guilty about it. Although I know my father will explode at any moment, he's having too much patience, and I know he's going to blow up at some point. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.